7 side effects of passive communication and how to overcome them. All right, so the Webster's Dictionary definition of passivity is this: accepting or allowing what happens or what other people do without any kind of response or resistance. So just accepting what other people do, what they say, how how often they say it, without any kind of resistance. Now, you might be sitting here and saying like, well, it's just my personality. I'm more of a passive person, or I'm like a peacemaker. And that may be true. Now, there are several reasons why I think that passivity can come into someone's life. It may be personality. It may be due to past trauma or a past experience that they've had that just kind of shut them down. But the main thing that I've seen in my years of working with worship leaders is it's largely due to fear of man. What is that person going to think about me? This person on my team is my friend. If I actually like tell them my opinion or, bring, guidance or correction at times, they're going to hate me. They're going to judge me. They're going to defriend me, whatever it is. And that's the main thing. So I'm not saying it's not, past traumas. That's real. And I'm not saying it's not your personality as well. That's also real. But regardless of where you're at, out of those 3 different categories, you can see change come. You can grow as a leader to overcome your passivity. You could be a businessman. I've talked to business people who they just let things kind of run their course in their business, and sometimes it works out, but other times it's like, wow, I should have just like fired that person. I should have just dealt with it, but I was so scared. So no matter what realm you're in, I'm talking to worship leaders here. But this applies. Like, we don't want to have passivity in our leadership. We want to have wisdom in our leadership. And sometimes wisdom is you don't say anything, you just shut your mouth and let it run its course. But other times, as we give into passivity, 99%, the majority of the time, we're going to run into issues on our team. Passivity is an obstacle to healthy leadership. Passivity is an obstacle to healthy leadership. No matter how good of a leader you are, how thorough your audition process, you're just like, well, I'm just gonna not let untalented or unruly people onto my team. I'm only gonna accept good people. No matter how high the bar is to join your team, there will be times where you need to overcome your passivity and actually step up to the plate and lead. I've seen so many worship leaders get wounded because they just allow things to kind of take the course and their direction on the team, and they're not properly leading. And guys, it does not have to be your story, okay? If it is your story, I'm glad that you found this video, because I'm going to give you some tips today of how to overcome passive leadership. So for me and my story, the reason I'm even having this video is I'm not more of a passive personality type, but I used to have the third thing I said. I used to be really, really bound in fear. I had so much fear of man, to the point where it'd be hard for me to like look my worship team member like in their face, or ever bring correction to someone if I was didn't like what someone was doing, what they were saying on stage or off stage. If there was like my team was heading in a certain direction I didn't like, I would just be so scared of like, well, I can't rock the boat. And it took reps of me doing it to actually realize like, wow, this isn't as scary as I'm making it out to be. And I can't just give in to my fear of man. And the only way you overcome fear of man is by stepping up to the plate over and over and over again, and you'll begin to find your fear of man slowly leaving you. And so I hope that's what's going to happen at the end of this video, this training. All right, so 7 harmful side effects to passive leadership style. The first one: people are going to feel unsafe under your leadership. When your team begins to see that, man, like Justin's really, really holding back, and this person over here is able to say and do whatever they want, I don't really feel safe here because Justin is not stepping up to the plate. If I was the leader of this team, I would have told them, hey, we need to stop right now. We don't talk that way, whatever it is. And they're going to begin to feel unsafe under my leadership. The second thing: people are bound to get hurt by me, whether it's the person that either they want to be led and I'm not leading them, or it's the really, really aggressive person that is dominating on the team and doing things to other people. And if I just kind of let things go and I don't actually like ever kind of intervene or actually be the voice of leadership on my team, or I've assigned someone else on my team to be the voice of leadership, which I've never ever seen work. I've seen worship leaders try and say, hey, you're going to be like the pastor of the team. You're going to deal with all the stuff. I'm just going to be the onstage face. And I've never seen that go well. It's largely due to, they say they don't have time, but it's largely due to, they say it's not my gift to be pastoral, to deal with people's issues. When in actuality, I think most of the time, Like I said, it's just fear of man. If it's the other two things, then you need to find some healing and some growth in your life, and then come back and start leading your team, in my opinion. But people will get hurt by you if you just continually embrace passive leadership. People will get hurt by others. As I said, kind of in point number one, if you have this person on your team who's just like really, really aggressive and just kind of they're running the show and you're just kind of like mostly shrinking back, or you rarely say anything, people are bound to be hurt by others. Point number four, people will not respect you as a leader. They might not ever say that to your face, but when asked, hey, is Justin a good leader? If you just kind of let your team run wild and you're super passive, then people are going to be like, actually, he's not that good of a leader. They don't really respect you as a leader. Which leads to point number five, the fifth side effect of passive communication. People are bound to exhibit withdrawal type behavior, because if there's not trust, if they can't trust you as a leader, that it's a safe place, then they're going to begin to withdraw themselves to say, Justin's team is not safe and I can't fully express myself, and I don't think I can fully plant here because it is not safe. They're going to begin to withdraw. The sixth side effect of passive communication, people will fail you. Because if you can't clearly express, what your belief is, where you guys are going, what the parameters are, and how you're going to get there, whether it comes to team vision or team morality, what kind of speech do we allow, at our worship team gatherings, on stage and off stage, for as an example, then eventually you're going to find just like, man, like this team is not doing well. Why? Because I'm not communicating, because you're not communicating what you actually want. And, one of the worst things that they say, the saying in any relationship, whether it be friendship or marriage, whatever, expectations can kill any relationship. And so your expectations as a worship leader, especially if you struggle with passivity, are, well, I'll just be silent and they will eventually do this. And so often that's not the way that it's going to happen, because they're probably going to do something completely contrary or completely different to what you expect them to do. So then your team's going to end up just failing you, and you're going to be really, really frustrated with your team, and eventually going to have to, get a new team because this one isn't cutting it, when all the while it's like, well, you need to train them and guide them and overcome your passivity and your fear of man to begin to, have them, lead and do what you want them to do on your team. And then the seventh side effects of passive communication, people will see your silence to certain issues that arise as indifference. And if it's ever a time in our world where you don't want to seem indifferent, whatever. I believe the time is now. Like, we need to be clear on where we're at, not just on, biblical morality or all those types of things, but, as leaders, like, how do we want our team to look? Where do we want our team to go? How are we going to accomplish, what we have to accomplish as a church? Whether it be your Sunday morning, your youth group, the Wednesday night service, or whatever it is, we want to lead people and take them somewhere, and that's not going to happen if we're struggling with passivity. So those are 7 side effects of passive communication. I went through those quickly, but here is how you overcome passivity. Here's how you resist those 7 things, and you're going to begin to see change happen. So first of all, identify out of the 3 categories I started this video with. Is it your personality? Again, there's all kinds of personality tests out there that could show you, okay, you're more passive, and because there's definitely personality tests, and people, it's like, wow, you're more aggressive. It's like, right? So identify first and foremost, is it your personality? Secondly, is it because of something that has happened in your past? Do you have, PTSD or trauma from something that happened, abuse that happened in your life? Because again, those things can really, really affect how you are as a leader. I'm not a therapist, so I would strongly recommend, especially if it's number 2, to seek out healing for your heart. But again, the third category, which I'm mostly going to speak to the third category right now, and it's what I've seen most to be the issue with passivity in worship leaders, is fear. Fear of man, fear of being rejected, fear of being judged by people. And so what I want to say is this, and boil it down to a really, really simple thing. How do you overcome fear? How do you overcome fear? You have to know the truth, and the truth will set you free. So as a worship leader, if you're worship leading, I don't care if you're bivocational, if you're full-time, if you're part-time, if you do it 20 times a year at your church, 5 times a year, or 50 times a year at your church, we want to know the truth. And the truth is, if you're doing that, you have been called by God to lead. someone at your church, your pastor, your worship leader, your executive pastor, whoever it is, has put you in that place to be a leader. So the foundational thing that you need to recognize is you have been placed in a leadership position by a man, but I would argue to say by the Lord himself. Now, maybe you're like the 1 out of 99 or 100, where it's like, no, I'm just filling in and I don't want to do it. Everyone hates it. I'm doing it, but there's no one else at the church. Okay, that's like the one scenario. But probably for like 99% of you who are watching this, you would probably say, yeah, I think God has called me to lead worship. So foundational truth number one, if you are called to do something, that is true. You want to exercise every single authority given by God to walk out the fullness of what you've been called to do. And that is the truth. The truth will set you free. If that's a foundational truth, number one, that you trust, God, you've called me to do this. I believe that I'm not just here by chance. I'm like, I belong in this worship leading position. That immediately changes the entire dynamic of yourself as a leader. So that's foundational truth number one, because the truth will set you free. We're overcoming fear of man, because you have to ask yourself, why am I afraid? Why am I giving myself to fear? Well, maybe it's because you don't know and you don't believe that you're actually called to do it. So foundational point, if you believe you're called to do it, then you have to ask yourself, okay, what is my fear? Is it fear of being rejected? Is it fear of I'm gonna actually say something completely wrong and have to kind of go back on my word and say, actually, what I said so strongly last week is completely wrong. We actually want to go this direction. So it's like, oh, great. You don't even know what you're saying. You don't even know what you're doing. All the types of fears. Is it fear of losing friends? Like I said, I've had many times different worship teams in my life where my friends are on my team. Like, can I, like, in a gracious, godly way, bring correction there and say, actually, hey, no, we're not doing that. I don't want to go that way at all. I don't want to talk that way in our team. We don't have that. This is against our values, whatever it is. We need to come back over here. Do I have fear that I'm going to lose a friend over that reality? So identify what the fear is inside of you, and then go back to the truth and say, okay, here's the fear, but here's the bottom line. I am called to do this. And then the second thing, I want to properly steward Matthew chapter 25, the parable of the talents. I want to multiply what you have given me. And guys, passivity is one of the greatest threats to multiplication on your team, to being a good steward. Passivity is a huge threat to proper stewardship, because if you're passive, you're just constantly leaning back. You're constantly not wanting to rock the boat. You have very little vision. And if you have the vision, even if your team's going against the vision, you're not going to be able to push through to find the vision. It's an incredible threat to actually stewarding what God has given you. So know that you're called. Know that God has asked you to do this for the season of your life. And then secondly, are you stewarding what God has given you? Are you multiplying the talents that God has given you? Because guys, this isn't something that we just I know I'm talking to worship leaders who believe this. You didn't just happenstance fall into this, and you're not just filling in until someone better comes along. You know that you're called by God to do this. And I'm asking you to talk to the Holy Spirit, to talk to God and ask him, am I properly stewarding my worship team? Am I embracing passivity? If I am, I want to overcome it, and I want to grow, and I want to find healing in my heart. If it's one of the first two things, your personality, talk to someone. Ask the Holy Spirit, talk to a friend, and say, I think I might be more passive in my personality. That's great. We're not trying to change your personality. We're trying to bring more a rounded fullness to your personality. If it's a second thing I mentioned of trauma from your past, and it's kind of made you be a certain way or lean a certain way, I want to encourage you to pursue therapy, pursue counseling, to find wholeness and to find healing. But again, the majority of you guys who are watching this, and I think this has resonated with you for sure, the fear aspect is the main thing. So identify the fear. Go back to the foundation that you are called, and secondly, that you want to rightfully steward what God has given you. You can overcome passivity. I'm a living testimony of it. Hundreds of worship leaders that I've worked with have overcome it, and they've grown their teams, they've grown their personal life, and it is possible. So let's overcome these side effects of passive communication and lead the way that God has intended us to. Yeah, I think what sets the Worship Leader Academy apart from pretty much all the other trainings out there is the coaching. Every training has pre-recorded teachings that you watch, and they typically have, once a month you're in a coaching session with, 20 to 200 other worship leaders. With the Worship Leader Academy, all of my clients get unlimited one-on-one personal access to me. And this is honestly my favorite part about the Academy, is going back and forth with people and really getting in the trenches with them with where they're at in their worship leading. I started the Worship Leader Academy because I really wanted to see worship leaders steward what God had given them in the realm of onstage leadership, offstage leadership, songwriting, and pursuing the creative gift that they have. And most worship leaders, get discovered, if you will, in high school when some youth leader sees, oh my goodness, you can sing and play at the same time. Like, can you be our worship leader? And as a 16-year-old, a 15-year-old, you're like, yes, that'd be amazing. I'd love to serve the Lord with my gift. And then you find yourself 10, 15, 20 years later doing it, 45 to 50 weekends a year. And you're like, I've never been trained for this. How do I do this? I started just wanting to love Jesus with my gift, but there's a lot more that goes into being a worship leader for the long haul. It's honestly been such an honor to have several hundred worship leaders go through this academy thus far. And what I love about it is people come for the content of the academy and we see them change and transformed. But I've had people inside my academy for years, and they really stick around for the community. And the community, a lot of it is available for absolutely free. I have a Facebook group, the Worship Leader Academy. I have tons of blogs and on my Instagram and on my YouTube channel where you can literally take action and begin to transform as a worship leader today for free. After doing the Worship Leader Academy for a couple of years, people started to reach out to me and say, hey, it was a great 6 months, but we want more. And so I created a second program, kind of a stepping stone next level to something called Journey, which then brings in 3 hours a month of co-writing on Zoom. So we have Zoom groups all over the world, people co-writing worship songs together. And then they begin to say, we want to record these songs. So I was like, I guess I have to create something else. And so kind of our signature program right now is called Recharge. It's held once a year with 10 people. We eat amazing food together, we hang out, we have times of worship and prayer, and then each person records a song, and this song is literally, gets to a point where it's ready to upload to Spotify right from this event called Recharge. Yeah, so I would encourage anyone, any worship leader, singer, musician, or songwriter, if you are done kind of just listening to teachings, which we have endless amounts of teaching coming at us all the time through social media and through YouTube, and if you want to go to that next level, and actually get a human being, a coach, to come alongside you and walk with you in the day-to-day to begin to guide you down the path that you need to go, I want to encourage you to shoot me an email down below. I'd love to have a conversation with you.